Schweinebulle, verpiss dich! Scheiß Schlägerschwein!
The State Department makes first ever Antifa foreign terrorist designation across Europe. It is now official that Antifa is an international terrorist organization, and this should have been done the moment that President Trump assigned them as a terrorist organization, because they are now threatening the AfD in Germany as they try to host events for younger generations to get them over to the AfD side. But better late than never. We have Fox News, 4 Europe-based groups to face asset freezes and entry bans. So what this does, this will now make it a lot easier for the State Department, Mark Rubio, the DOJ, to go after Antifa with RICO cases, which means they will be able to find out who is funding these organizations, and hopefully we will start seeing some arrests of the actual leaders. They say the State Department will designate 4 Antifa-linked groups operating in Europe as foreign terrorist organizations. As you saw from the video at the beginning of the segment, that was in Germany, I believe. They are squaring up against police there as the AfD is holding events to try to draw younger generations over to the right wing. They all go on to say, and specifically designated global terrorists, SDGTs, putting them among the likes of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah. The decision marks the first time the U.S. government has applied foreign terrorist designations to Antifa-linked groups, expanding President Trump's previous domestic terrorist directive to an international scale. The 4 Antifa-aligned cells active in Europe and Germany, as we just talked about, Italy and Greece, are accused of organizing and carrying out bombings, shootings, and other politically motivated attacks. There are conspiracies that some of the former heads of the AfD who have since passed away due to odd causes are actually linked to these Antifa groups in Germany. I can't confirm that. That is just suspicions I've read online, but it would not surprise me. These people are extremely dangerous. They are extremely violent and absolutely unhinged, to say the least. They go on to say the designation requires U.S. financial institutions to freeze assets of FTOs and SDGTs and ban entry of the group's members into the U.S. It allows the U.S. to criminally prosecute those under U.S. jurisdiction who offer material support to FTOs or conspire to offer such support. So hopefully, now that we have this ruling, this requirement, that will give the DOJ and the DHS more leeway to start going after these Antifa terrorists that are terrorizing American streets in Portland, in Chicago, New York City, wherever it is. And anybody that is caught, and this is why I say RICO is such a huge thing, if you bring a RICO case against these groups, anybody that supports, whether it is donations, whether it is a storage facility like in Portland, food, clothing, equipment, any of that, they will be technically designated as supporting a terrorist organization, which carries a large amount of federal prison time. I don't know why it's taken this long to do this. Maybe there was something that they had to figure out on the back end, but I'm glad that they have finally done this. This will give the DHS so much more to work with, and hopefully we will start seeing mass arrests of these people. Because the American citizens, especially the younger generations who have seen Antifa and the likes riot and cause mayhem for years now, will start to finally come back to the right wing. They go on to say, one of the groups Antifa oust is a left-wing cell that has been linked to attacks between 2018 and 2023 in Germany. German prosecutors have charged 7 individuals linked to the group. In September 2025, the Hungarian government designated the group as terrorists after 9 members allegedly assaulted people with hammers, batons, and pepper spray in Budapest in 2023. The International Revolutionary Front, also known as the Informal Anarchist Federation, is an Italy-based coalition of groups that endorse revolutionary armed conflict against the state. The group has been tied to dozens of violent and criminal incidents over the past 2 decades. Letter bombs to the government and industrial targets, small explosive devices, shootings, including the 2012 shooting of a nuclear engineer executive. I believe they were also tied to an attack on a Tesla manufacturing plant in Germany as well, either in 2023 or 2024. 2 other Greece-based groups, Armed Proletarian Justice and Revolutionary Class Self-Defense, have carried out attacks on government buildings throughout Greece, most recently attacking the headquarters of Hellenic Railway in a bombing in April. Revolutionary Class Defense dedicated the bombing to the Palestinian people and their heroic resistance. The anarchist, Marxist, and violent extremists of Antifa have waged a terror campaign in the United States and across the Western world for decades, carrying out bombings. I despise how it does this, I'm sorry. Carrying out bombings, beatings, shootings, and riots in service of their extreme agenda, said Principal Deputy Spokesperson Tommy Pigott. The State Department is committed to identifying and dismantling these terror networks that conspire to ruthlessly suppress the will of the people and violently undermine the very foundation of the United States and Western civilization. Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri, who had written to Rubio advocating for the designation, praised the move. Quote, I am grateful to Secretary Rubio and the Trump administration for working with me on this critical issue. Holding these radical groups who enable, fund, and support political violence in the United States and across the world accountable. Designation marks a rare use of foreign terrorism sanctions against far leftist extremists, which are typically handled as domestic security threats by European governments rather than international terrorist networks. Good. Good. Hopefully, we will now start to see these domestic and international terrorists being brought to justice. They have only become more emboldened as the DOJ sits on their hands and does absolutely nothing. We went over this in the stream the other day about the events at TPUSA in Berkeley, and it's only going to get worse until we start seeing these people thrown in federal prison for decades. And if they still want to continue to push their terrorist ideas, then we will continue to arrest these people and throw the book at them. That is the only way you can quell this ideology. Just like with ISIS. Andy No had a few things to say about it, which obviously, if you know Andy No, he has been covering Antifa for at least the last decade. He actually introduced me to them when I first started getting into this stuff, and I have been kind of following him ever since. As he's been attacked, his life has been threatened to the point that he had to move to London. He says the State Department declaring 4 European Antifa groups involved in beatings, shootings, and bombings as foreign terrorist organizations now puts them in the same terrorist category as ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And here's what he has to say about it. And I bet you he is probably a very happy man. But let's listen to what he has to say. Let's listen to how he thinks this is going to change everything when it comes to Antifa.
Is to look at the international networks and organizations within Antifa and to designate the applicable ones as FTOs, foreign terrorist organizations. And why that's so important is because unlike the categorization of domestic terrorism, there's actually legislation and a legal category of a foreign terrorist organization. And the announcement from Secretary Rubio with Antifa Ost and 3 other European-based Antifa groups and networks being declared FTOs, these are now on the same category as ISIS, as Al-Qaeda, and other proscribed terrorist groups that your listeners and viewers may have heard of. Good. This is very different than when people in the administration talk about Antifa being domestic terrorists. And the key difference is that there's actually no legal category in the U.S. for domestic terrorism in terms of like a group cannot be declared that way and then be banned. So the executive order describes Antifa as such, but it's not like a law that would ban providing support for Antifa domestic.
Exactly. And what he's saying is very important here. With them now making them an international or an FTO, a foreign terrorist organization, it now gives the DOJ the ability to literally start going after every single one of these people. Every one of these people. And they can even go back to 2020, 2018, 2016, when these same types of people were rioting, were burning down federal buildings, when they were taking over U.S. soil and creating autonomous zones. I'm sure a lot of you probably forgot about the CHOP zone, but this is something that in my mind that has stuck with me since then, that why President Trump did not go after them with the full force of the federal government after they decided to make U.S. soil in an autonomous area is beyond me. That is a literal insurrection. You are saying that you no longer recognize A, your citizenship, B, the United States of America, C, the United States of America's government entity. That is a attack, a proclaimed attack on the United States. And why he allowed it to happen still to this day baffles me. Whoever was telling him not to go after them, I'm hoping was fired, and I'm hoping will never, ever be able to get into Donald Trump's ear ever again, because that was one of the dumbest mistakes he ever made.
Or to have membership in a violent group that's within the Antifa network. And that's because of First Amendment protections. I'm speaking to you from London now, and in my travels in the UK and Europe, when I speak to liberals or leftists, they say, well, how come the US hasn't banned the KKK or like neo-Nazi groups? And the reason is the First Amendment has been interpreted through the courts to provide very wide protections for associations. So, but that doesn't mean that the executive orders and what the administration now is doing domestically doesn't matter. There's been, very importantly, at the federal level, the DOJ was able to get 2 indictments against alleged members of an Antifa cell in North Texas, indicted on providing material support to terrorism. You see, so like that's where that focus that the administration has on Antifa and terrorism matters rather than the...
Bingo. That's the key word. Every single one of these, like I was saying earlier, any person that has supplied them with donations, has supplied them with any type of material, storage, food, any of these situations. And of course, my phone is going off in the middle of this because I forgot to put it on vibrate. But anyways, if any of those types of people have provided them with any of this types of support, then they are now considered part of that terrorist organization. That is key here. That means they can go after the low level as well as the high level. So people, I don't know if it's directly linked to Soros, but the Open Foundation, I know in the past, has supported and donated to these types of groups.
The label domestic terrorists, but going back to FTO, it's the first time in U.S. history that the U.S. government has declared any Antifa-associated group as being officially terrorist.
Which is good. This is great news. Now we just have to hope that Pam Bondi does her job and she actually goes after these people. That is my hope. I hope she gets off her butt and starts actually going after them. But here's what he's talking about with Antifa Oaths. This is an attack, I believe, from 2018 where they took hammers to a political opponent. I don't believe they killed them, but they did injure 9 people. So this is in response to the State Department. Mark Rubio made a response to this. They said, anarchist militants have waged terror campaigns in the United States and Europe, conspiring to undermine the foundations of Western civilization through their brutal attacks. The State Department will designate these 4 Antifa groups as foreign terrorist organizations. Antifa Ost is a terrorist organization based in Germany that is infamous for wielding hammers and premeditated attacks against unsuspecting victims, which we talked about earlier. The International Revolution, so this is pretty much just goes through every single one of them. So you have the International Revolution, they're from Italy. Armed Proletarian Justice is from Greece. The Revolutionary Class Self-Defense is a violent and anarchist anti-capitalist group also in Greece. And they say the Trump administration will continue to identify and disrupt Antifa terror networks across the world. These terrorist designations deny violent organizations access to America's financial systems and impose severe penalties on those who offer support to these militant groups. And you have Andy No, he just commented on that. But here's the video, and this is from RT News. U.S. to designate European Antifa wing as terrorist group. I guess this was in Germany. So Germany's Antifa Ost. Okay, so this is pretty much just also labeling each one of them that are now FTOs. But we already watched this video. I just wanted to make a quick one to bring this up because I saw this. I'm sorry I didn't make a couple posts last couple days. I've been watching over a coworker's stuff. It has been a extremely hectic week dealing with ports. I had a driver that was put out of service that I'm still dealing with. Just a lot on my plate right now. Came home. My brain was pretty much just spent for the day. I still had stuff I had to do around the house. I'm still working, as you can hear. That was my work phone going off. Still having to get loads covered for Monday. So I'm trying to get you guys videos, but unfortunately with the trucking industry, even on the weekends, I'm not off. I'm still working. So I appreciate you guys watching this one. I'll try to get out another video tomorrow. If not, we should be back to the regular schedule Monday of 2 streams, 3 videos. And fingers crossed everything is taken care of so I can bring you guys these videos. But I do appreciate every one of you watching. I'm grateful for every single one of your views. Go enjoy your Saturdays. Go be with your friends. Go be with your family members. Hug them. Tell them you love them. And most important of all, and I mean most important of all, God is great and he loves you. And on that note, I'll see you in the next one.